Base models tend to be compromise options in a car maker's lineup where a lot of features and amenities are sacrificed in the name of affordability. When all of these penny pinching are done, well, you're left with a bare-to-the-bones option that looks like the top-spec variant but without these said creature comforts and amenities. That's a trend that the Ford Territory, well, trend aims to break. What we have here is the 2021 base model Ford Territory trend, and in this video we'll see how it stacks up against the pricier top-spec titanium. Let's do this! Hello guys, I'm Reagan and welcome back to another car review and drive impression. If you're new to my channel guys, I hope you hit that subscribe button and become part of the Reagan's Rides family. If you're a subscriber already, thank you so much for your support by watching this video. Also special thanks to Ford Alabang for this weekend lend out of the base model Ford Territory trend. If you have any need for any Ford vehicles or you want to check out this Ford Territory for yourself, you may head on down to Ford Alabang and check them out. Or for any inquiries, you may contact the person in my description below. The launch of the all-new Ford Territory in the local market has shaken the automotive industry at its core because it offers a phenomenal set of creature comforts and cabin amenities at a price point that is so low, it's literally a steal. The thing is, that's the top-spec Ford Territory Titanium that everybody's been talking about. This top-spec model has stolen the spotlight, so much so that this base model Territory trend feels a little bit neglected. You can't really blame the people though because, well, that top-spec titanium variant offers a phenomenal value at its price. The thing is, this base model Territory trend also offers an awesome value, especially considering its price point. How much, you ask me? Well, this baby right here costs only 1,179,000 Philippine pesos. That's a good 120,000 Philippine pesos lower than the top-spec Territory titanium. And to some people, that is still a large amount of money saved. Luckily, well, the base model trend doesn't really lose much in terms of amenities, and to some people, this variant even makes more sense. When you look at the front clip of the Ford Territory trend, you'll see that it's pretty similar to the ones found in the Territory Titanium. You still get the same glossy black front grille here, but you lose out on the chrome bits that can be found in the top-spec Titanium. And for me guys, this is even more pleasing, at least in my eye. You still get the same LED headlight units here in the same design that's found in the top-spec Titanium, and you also get LED DRLs here at the bottom part that also doubles as your turn signals every time you make a turn. This base model Territory trend still gets your standard fog lights right here, and if you look at the entire front clip, well, yes, this baby looks very similar to the top-spec Titanium, so much so that Territory trend buyers would not feel shortchanged. You even get this front skid plate right here that comes with those three functional air vents that we first saw in the Territory Titanium. When you go over to the side of the Ford Territory trend, you'll see that it has some aesthetic differences between the top-spec Titanium and this base model trend. You lose out on some chrome bits here and there, and for me, that is a good thing. You don't get the chrome door handles in the top-spec Titanium, and you also lose that chrome strip that can be found at the bottom part of the doors. Losing those chrome bits makes this Territory trend look a little bit sportier than the top-spec Titanium. Now for ground clearance, it's the same at 180 millimeters, but for your wheels and tires, you get a smaller set here. The base model trend gets 17 inches versus the 18 inches found in the top-spec Titanium. These 17s are wrapped in 235/55 R17 rubber. Now, the tire width is the same as the top-spec Titanium, but this one has a slightly thicker sidewall, and that thicker rubber means lesser feeling. Oh, sorry guys, I mean lesser vibrations inside the cabin, and that would make for a more comfortable ride. Now, when you look at the side silhouette of this base model trend, its side silhouette is pretty similar to the Evoque. The Territory Titanium. Man, I gotta manage those Freudian slips. Now, when you get to the rear end of the Territory trend, you'll see that it's exactly the same in design with the top-spec Titanium, which means this baby is chock full of details. you still get the same territory name spelled out here in chrome, and you get the same LED taillight designs that's found in the Territory Titanium. The rear bumper is also the same. You get, well, a rear fog light here in the center. It's a small strip right there, and you have a matte aluminum bumper overrider finish for the rear bumper. Those twin exhaust garnishes, they're also fake, the same as the ones found in the Territory Titanium. Now when we pop open the liftgate, you'll see that you have the same 420 liters of trunk capacity here. But what I failed to mention in my Territory Titanium review is the fact that, well, the Territories in the country get a donut spare tire right here under the floorboard of your trunk. This is still a donut, guys, but, well, at least it's much better than a fix-a-flat. Now, another thing that we want to do in this video right now and see how much luggage we can fit inside with the Territory Trend. I have here a medium-sized luggage, one that you can use when going to America or in other places that have like a 23 kilo capacity in terms of luggage. So if you put it here, there you go. You could actually fit a couple of these right here in the 420 liters of the Territory Trend. I know it's a little bit on the small side, guys, but at least this baby would still accommodate a couple of medium-sized luggage. Normally, base models get a smaller or less powerful engine, but that's not the case here. This Territory Trend gets the same engine as the top-spec Titanium, which is a 1.5-liter EcoBoost engine as dictated by the ASEAN-China Free Trade Agreement. This baby puts out 140 horses and 225 Newton meters of torque. It's also mated to a CVT transmission with a sport mode, and I must say, guys, it is one of the better CVTs that can be found in the market right now. This is Ford's first CVT in over 10 years, and I must say I am truly impressed. Those guys really nailed it well. The base model nature of the Territory Trend makes itself known and felt inside the cabin. While you still get a panoramic sunroof here, you lose out on a few missing bits and pieces that are quite glaring, guys, because they should make your daily drive more convenient. First up, let's start with the missing bits that I could truly live without. Your Territory Trend does not get a fully digital instrument gauge cluster here. Instead, you get the usual analog tachometer and speedometer and a tiny multi-information display in the middle to show you your vital stats. Not a big issue there, guys. The Trend also loses the ambient lighting that prettifies the cabin, and you also lose the engineered wood that can be found on the dashboard and the door panels. While those two bits would make the cabin more pleasant and the ambiance really nicer, it's not really something that I would miss. Now, the Trend also loses the telescoping feature of the steering wheel. Rather, you get a tilting steering wheel, but it doesn't telescope, pretty similar to the one found in the top-spec Titanium. Since I'm an average Asian guy, guys, it doesn't really matter to me because, well, I could still find a better driving position inside the Territory Trend. Now, another key feature that they omitted in this base model is the Auto Park Assist feature. Now, that's an issue for me because I am a Tito of Manila, and no Tito of Manila would ever, well, admit to you that they need something like an Auto Park Assist feature. So that's not a big issue for me. Now let's check out the bits and pieces that the Trend shares with the top-spec Titanium. You get the same infotainment system here with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is a good thing. This baby is a 10-inch touchscreen system that also controls your climate control system. Now, I must admit, guys, this is not the most intuitive infotainment system in the industry, but spend like around 20 minutes with this baby and you'll get the hang of it in no time. The base model Trend also gets an electronic parking brake with an auto hold feature, and you also have a sport button right here. You also get the aforementioned panoramic sunroof up top, which gives a more premium and upscale feel inside this base model Trend. Now, the Trend also sports leather seats, but the leather that's been used here are of a lower quality than the ones found in the top-spec Titanium. These babies are not as plush, the material is different, and they also emit a different scent. It's not the same car leather scent that we all love, guys, but rather something else. Now, these seats are also not ventilated, a feature that I must admit I miss in this base model Trend. Now, there are some missing bits in the base model Trend that are so useful that I'm just wondering why Ford even omitted them. First up, you don't get a 360-degree view camera here, and you also lose the front parking sensors. Now, this baby has a backup camera, and I don't mind not having a 360-degree view camera as long as you have a backup camera, but losing the front parking sensors would mean that parking this baby in a tight parking spot would be a little bit more challenging. Now, another huge bit that went missing in this base model trend is the fact that you don't get one-touch up and down windows. For all windows, not even the driver's side window has a one-touch up and down feature. I mean, what? Even econo cars, guys, come with a driver's side one-touch up and down window. I mean, this is one convenience feature that we all take for granted until it's taken away from you and you realize how useful this thing is. Now, this base model trend also loses out on some safety bits because this baby doesn't have Ford's Co-Pilot 360 system, which means no more emergency braking for you, no more adaptive cruise control, and no more blind spot monitoring. This base model trend still gets some basic safety features like airbags, seat belts, and ABS with ABD and other stuff like that. But yeah, you don't get Ford's Co-Pilot 360 system. Now overall, guys, when you look at the cockpit of this base model trend, it's still a pretty nice place to spend time in. When you compare it to other crossovers or other contenders in the same price point, like an MPV or a small sedan, well, this baby is still quite well spec'd. However, it doesn't feel as premium and as upscale as the cabin that's found in the top-spec Territory Titanium. Now, let's hop over to the back seat and see if we still have those nice creature comforts in the back, especially those rear AC vents. When you get into the backseat of the base model trend, you'd be happy to know that this backseat is pretty much the same as the one found in the top-spec Titanium, and that is a good thing because normally car manufacturers would scrimp on the features and amenities in the backseat of their base model offerings. This trend also has the same dual rear aircon vents here, the all-important rear AC vents because we live in a tropical country. You also have a USB charging port here, the same one found in the Territory Titanium. You also have ISOFIX anchors here that would make Kako happy, and you also have, well, a center armrest with dual cup holders over here for your drinks. Now when it comes to space, guys, well, the space of the Territory Trend's backseat is pretty commodious, guys. I'm 5'6", and as you could see, I got a great amount of legroom here, and the third row tunnel here, the center tunnel, is not that tall. So that means, well, the third passenger in the back seat would have a comfortable time riding there in the middle of two of you guys. Now, good thing here is that the base model also has a panoramic sunroof, which means that this baby has a good amount of atmosphere and a nice airy feeling at the back seat because of that huge panoramic sunroof. In terms of headroom, guys, it's the same as the ones found in the Territory Titanium. I got around 4 inches worth of headroom here. Granted, I'm wearing hair wax, so that adds an inch to my height, but still, I would reach around maybe around 4 inches before my head would touch the headliner. So now, guys, let's hop back to the driver's seat and I'll give you another driving impression of this base model trend to see how it compares in terms of driving dynamics against the top spec model. Alright guys, so we're now behind the wheel of the base model Ford Territory Trend, and I must say guys that this drives exactly the same as the top spec Territory Titanium. You need to have a finely tuned driver's sense to detect any difference between this base model and that of the top spec variant. Now having said that guys, let's start with the similarities. This baby has the same light steering wheel that I've encountered in the top spec Titanium. This steering wheel is so light and it's gonna make it so easy to maneuver this baby in city roads or in tight parking areas. Now in my previous video, I got a little bit of flack in the comments because, you know, people said that, well, having a light steering wheel doesn't automatically mean that it's for women. That's not what I meant, guys, come on. What I meant was, well, if you have a lighter steering wheel, it's going to be easier for the fairer sex to drive and to pilot this baby. Yeah, so that's all it is, okay? So, you know, my wife loves a crossover, an SUV that has a really light steering wheel, and that is the basis of what I said in that previous video. Anyway, another thing that I noticed, well, this Territory Trend also has a very low sitting position, similar to the one found in the top-spec titanium. It's mainly because of the body line, the waistline here. It's a little bit high up, and you've got a little bit smaller windows on your driver's side and the passenger's side. So that gives the feeling that you're actually just sitting inside the car or inside the seat rather than on the seat. Now when it comes to acceleration, guys, well, this base model trend accelerates pretty much like how the titanium accelerates, and that means it accelerates in a brisk manner even if you're not in sport mode. This is owed to the CVT transmission tuning, and I mentioned that this baby has one of the better CVTs out there in the market. You do get a little bit of CVT lag, but if you factor that in, take it into consideration, it's not going to be a big issue. As long as your gas pedal input is linear and smooth, it's going to accelerate quite well, and you don't get any jerkiness, or you could minimize the lag coming from standstill. Now this is not really a track monster. It's not a canyon carver in any way. I also mentioned that in my driving impression of the titanium, but this baby will give you a decent level of acceleration when you're going around city roads like what I'm doing now. I also like the fact, guys, that despite being a turbo, power delivery of this thing is quite smooth and linear. And when it comes to braking, the braking is quite confident, especially since you've got four-wheel disc brakes, even in this base model territory trend. Suspension tuning is also the same. However, given the fact that we have a slightly thicker rubber in our tires, you will have a little bit more comfort when you're driving this thing. It doesn't feel as jarring. Not that the top-spec titanium is jarring in any way. It's actually one of the plusher crossovers that I've tested. But this one just feels a little bit softer. And the good thing there, guys, is, well, in terms of handling, this baby actually handles quite as decently and as good as a top-spec titanium. I find that the trend also doesn't lurch too much when you brake, and it also doesn't sit too much on the back wheels when you go accelerating. I don't know if it's the thickness of the tire in itself, or there's a different kind of suspension tuning that's been done in this base model. But yeah, that's a little bit of something, a little bit of a difference that I felt with this base model trend versus the top-spec titanium. Now, since the base model trend has smaller 17-inch wheels versus the 18-inchers found in the top-spec titanium, this baby has a slower turn-in when it comes to steering versus the top-spec model. Now, some people might think that's a bad thing, but given the fact that this baby has an uber light steering wheel, means a slower turn-in complements the light steering wheel much better than something with a sharper turn-in. You see, it doesn't really get too jerky when you do a little bit more aggressive handling and steering maneuvers with this baby. See, I'm going through this street corner right now, yes, and it feels more planted and it feels more composed than the top-spec titanium. It's a minor difference that I felt during my drive of this base model trend for the weekend. I feel it's a better partner to the light steering wheel as against the 18-inchers that you can find in the top-spec titanium. Although the 18-inchers in that baby looks really gorgeous. Overall, guys, I'm happy to report that this base model territory trend drives exactly like the top-spec titanium. Even its fuel economy is exactly the same. In fact, a little bit thirstier, mainly because I've been driving mostly in the city and I've encountered more traffic than when I borrowed the titanium variant. This baby gave me 7.5 kilometers per liter in pure city driving, as against, well, the 7.9 kilometers per liter that I encountered in the top-spec titanium. Yeah, so fuel economy, practically the same thing. It's just that I encountered more heavy traffic during this lend out than the previous one. So yeah, as a territory trend buyer or owner, you really wouldn't feel that shortchange when it comes to the driving experience of this base model trend as against the titanium. So yeah, there you have it. So does the base model territory trend offer a better value than the top-spec titanium? Well, at 120,000 Philippine pesos saved, you do lose out on a few convenience bits and features here in the trend that would make your daily drive a little bit more convenient. If you do have the budget, guys, I would highly recommend that you still go for the top-spec Territory Titanium. This decision is largely influenced by the fact that, well, the trend lacks those one-touch up and down windows, especially on the driver's side, and, oh yeah, the leather quality as well. However, if you're cross-shopping this baby against, let's say, other offerings from other car manufacturers, like, let's say, an MPV or a small sedan, well, then it's a no-brainer, dude. This Territory trend right here offers you an awesome value with all of its creature comforts and amenities for the price. Heck, this base model trend right here is already considered the top of the line in some of the other offerings of other car manufacturers. That makes this baby right here a category winner. Once again, thank you guys for watching one of my car reviews. If you like this review, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. I promise you guys I'll make it worth your while if you subscribe to Reagan's Rides. I'm Reagan and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.